Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're going to give folks just a couple minutes to get in and get settled before we get started. But yeah, thank you for joining. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining. If you could just make sure that your name is correct on Zoom, that would be really helpful for us. We'll get started in just a couple minutes. Morning, everyone. We'll get started in just another minute or two. Welcome. Thank you for joining. And just please make sure that your name is correct on Zoom, and we'll get started shortly. All right, I think we can get started. Good morning, everyone. Again, thank you for joining. My name is Chris Rice. I'm an associate principal and urban planner at WXY Studio. We're a planning and design firm based here in New York City, and we're supporting the city's ADU for You initiative. Next slide. So just a few Zoom reminders before we get started. Later on during the Q&A portion, we'll ask folks to use the raise your hand feature. And when it's your turn to speak, someone from our staff will unmute you so you can ask your question. We're asking folks to be respectful and concise when speaking so that we can address as many questions as possible. And I also just want to acknowledge this is a new city program, so we'll continue to kind of refine and improve the initiative over time. And we want everyone to stay engaged, and so we encourage folks to turn on your cameras if you feel comfortable. Next slide. So for today's session, we'll start with a sort of 15 or 20-minute overview presentation of the initiative and the RFS guidelines. And then that should leave around 35 minutes of Q&A. And then we'll close out with the next steps at the end. With that, I'm going to pass to Doug Pardella from the mayor's office.
Great. Thank you very much, Chris, and the rest of the team at WXY for your great work in advancing this effort. I want to start here by talking about the opportunity. So City of Yes for Housing Opportunity, as you know, this was the admin's signature zoning initiative to address the city's severe housing crisis. And the aim was to build a little more housing in every neighborhood. But what you may not know is that of the 82,000 housing units that was projected to be built under City of Yes, 25,000 of those are expected to be ADUs. In other words, of the 8 major zoning initiatives made under City of Yes, ADUs are the single most impactful policy of them all. But fulfilling that projection is not as straightforward. You know, we can't just enlist a handful of developers to build a dozen 2,000 unit buildings. ADUs require convincing and cajoling 25,000 different homeowners, regular people who have jobs and families and lawn work to do, to take the time to oversee a full-on development project in their backyard or within the home that they already live in. So we understand just how significant of an ask this is of New Yorkers. So we're doing everything we can to make this process as simple and straightforward as possible. So we've coalesced over a dozen agencies across the administration, led by our team at the mayor's office and our dedicated partners at DOB and HPD, and a strong team of outside experts with WXY and their team to create ADU for You, which includes a whole slate of homeowner resources that will be available for anyone to review. But the marquee project for ADU for You is the pre-approved plan library, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So, after reviewing the work of jurisdictions around the country, we found that the most successful way to encourage homeowners to build ADUs is if they can really see what it would look like to have a new small home in their backyard. So, we're happy to report that DOB has officially released a request for submissions, an RFS, for registered design professionals to submit backyard ADU plans for pre-approval. Next slide. So a little more information now. So the submitter has to be an RDP, and they must send in the necessary architectural drawings as outlined in the RFS. The design, it's meant to be site agnostic, but it must follow construction codes and the applicable zoning rules regarding size and bulk. And every ADU design that meets DOB's guidelines will eventually be approved and uploaded to the library. We're not picking favorites here, but we're only going to take up to 36 for the initial launch of the program. Next slide. So the design that you submit is tied to you, the RDP, forevermore. So the homeowner can't pick your design and hire someone else to go build it. You own that design, and the homeowner must hire you directly to then submit the pre-approved plan on a specific site. And therefore, the homeowners will be reaching out directly to you and your teams about your design. Next slide. So taking a step back here, I want to discuss the broader ADU for You schedule. So we officially launched in August. You can see our preliminary website hosted by HPD, where you could find more information about the program, as well as a link to the RFS itself. We posted an addendum on the 5th based on questions we received over email, and we'll do so again on the 19th if needed. The submission period is officially open as of yesterday, and it will remain open until September 26th. We want to give DOB a chance to review all of the submissions and then plan the launch of the library with the goal of getting it out by the end of the year. And then once that's complete, we'll reopen the RFS in 2026 for additional designs. But that's only, this is your only chance to get in that first launch period and meet the demand of homeowners most eager to build an ADU right now. The last thing I'll say is we're probably not going to be able to answer every question, all the questions here today. We're doing our best to operate within some technical constraints here, as you know. So we're asking you to bear with us. This is a brand new program that we're standing up here, and we're using it to build a novel building typology in New York City. But we're hoping to make this as seamless as possible for you guys and for homeowners who are going to be taking this up. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Chris.
Great. Thank you, Doug. So now we're going to take a moment to dive a little bit deeper into the RFS components, of which there are 3. There's the design questionnaire, the representation requirements, and then the DOB pre-approved ADU RFS guidelines. And we're going to touch on each one of these briefly. Next slide. So first we have the design questionnaire, which requests information about the ADU designs that are submitted. And the information collected through this questionnaire will be used to inform sort of filters or categories in the pre-approved plan library. So as part of the questionnaire, we're collecting information on ADU type, number of bathrooms and bedrooms, square footage, appliances, materials and finishes, architectural features, style, accessibility, sustainability features, and estimated cost. And it's really important that you fill out the questionnaire in its entirety and to the best of your ability. And so if a homeowner wants to search for specific ADU types, or they want to search for certain square footage or finishes or sustainability features, the information collected in the questionnaire will enable us to set up those filters and searches. Next slide. So second, we have the representation requirements, and these will be used to visualize the ADU designs to the public in accessible and recognizable format. Applicants are required to include an exterior rendering, diagrammatic floor plans, and a digital 3D object of a building mass. And for those, an OBJ file is recommended. So the representation materials, they will not be reviewed by DOB, but they must reflect the pre-approved DOB drawing set, and they have to be updated in response to any changes that are specified by DOB. There are some optional materials that folks can include as well, including one additional exterior rendering, a planned perspective rendering, and an axonometric drawing, and two interior perspective renderings. Those can also be submitted, but those are not required. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Mercy from DOB.
Hi, I'm Mercy Sawyer from Department of Buildings. I'm Director for Code and Zoning Interpretation. And I'm happy to be here today to talk to you about the pre-approved ADU RFS guidelines. So non-RDP, that's registered design professionals, may submit an application, but the drawing set submitted for this RFS request must be stamped by an RDP. So that could be a New York State registered architect or engineer in order to be reviewed by DOB. The submitting RDP must also be the RDP of record for any future filings with DOB using the approved ADU design. The RDP retains ownership and control over the use of their plan. At this moment, there is a limit of 3 submissions for pre-approved ADUs per RDP. To be eligible for pre-approval, the proposed ADU must comply with all applicable New York City construction codes and zoning regulations. Right now, we're only accepting detached ADU units or ADU separated from the main residence by a code-complying firewall. We're also accepting the ADU design can also be either a stick-built constructed on-site design or a U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development HUD or New York State certified manufactured home. So right, as Doug said, the submission window is currently open and will close on Friday, 5 p.m., September 26th. For submitting, one must complete the OTCR1 application form, and that link has been provided in the RFS guide. You also have to submit a $600 check per ADU design payable to New York City Department of Buildings. The form and the check has to be mailed to 280 Broadway, and that address has been included on the RFS guide. Both the application and check must be postmarked by 5 p.m. on September 26. Submitting of the entire application package must be as follows. The PDF of the completed OTCR1 application form, all required drawings and any supporting documentation. All electronic files must be emailed to pre-approved ADU at buildings.nyc.gov. So a little on the review process. Submissions will be reviewed in the order they're received, and submissions will be scanned for completeness. If a pre-approved ADU submission is incomplete, WXY will notify the applicant, and any missing information must then be resubmitted to the email address. Only the complete resubmitted applications will be reviewed in the order they're received, not based on the initial submission date. So once the submission period closed, DOB will begin reviewing the submissions. DOB will only review complete applications. The RDP must respond to any objections raised during this review process and in a timely manner. Upon approval, the design will receive a pre-approved plan number, which will also be posted on DOB's website and on HPD's website. And that number must be referenced in any future site-specific filing. And with that, I'll pass it on to William Singer, my colleague, very seasoned architect, and he'll be going over some of the highlight questions.
Good morning. My name is William Singer and a colleague of Mercy Sawyer's in the Department of Buildings. We have selected 5 questions from the first tranche of questions and answers for the addendum number 1. And we thought these 5 questions would best represent the broader sense of the types of questions. The first question we have, will a firm receive compensation if a homeowner uses their pre-approved plan? The use and payment for the registered design professional's pre-approved ADU design will be resolved between the RDP and the homeowner, which is the user of the design, through an agreement for the use of the pre-approved ADU design. This information is again posted in the RFS guidelines. The registered design architect associated with the pre-approved design retains ownership of their design and all associated intellectual property rights. Homeowners must enter into a separate contract with the RDP for the use of their pre-approved drawings. And this has been noted earlier. The RDP has the intellectual property right of their design. Next, please. Can the city provide any estimates of DOB partner agency review timeline savings or filing fee savings directly attributable to plans included in the pre-approved plan library? The intent of the program is to make the DOB examination of a site-specific pre-approved ADU design as fast as possible. But note well, the final DOB plan examination approval for permitting at a specific site will depend on other agency approvals, such as Department of Environmental Protection, Department of Transportation, and others. The time necessary for a site-specific DOB plan examination for a pre-approved ADU design will vary. Note this will vary based on the complexity of the specific site conditions and the complexity of the pre-approved ADU design. There's an overlap. There's a Venn diagram here. The intent of the program is to provide a current and as accurate as possible estimated cost of construction for a pre-approved ADU design, so the owner in the PAPL, in the pre-approved plan library, can make an informed decision about pursuing the realization of an ADU for his or her site-specific 1 or 2 family lot. Filing fees for specific site application are governed by the DOB's 2022 Administrative Code. The cost for an owner with any associated professional design and construction administration service cost savings to use a specific design selected from the PAPL, the pre-approved plan library, will be based on the individual agreement. Note this, the individual agreement between the owner and the architect of record, the RDP for professional services. So there are three components here: the site-specific examination, the intent for the cost estimate, and the relationship of the owner and the RDP in terms of their contract for professional services. Next, please. Next slide, please. The guidelines require a full DOB permit set, which is usually tied to a specific address and project. How are we meant to satisfy the drawing requirements for a generic site? Use a generic site that demonstrates that the design complies with required regulations and codes. Site-specific adjustments, variances, such as foundation, connections for the Department of Environmental Protection site connection proposal or the house connection proposal approvals, FDNY access, and others, will be required when the application is submitted for a specific premises. These are site-specific conditions. Next, please. What is meant by deviations from the pre-approved design require separate review and may revoke the pre-approval following notice? What does this mean? What does the variation mean? What will be considered a deviation? If a homeowner or builder elects to change the finish material of a house siding or bathroom floor tiles, for example, are those considered deviations from the pre-approved plans? Our response is a different material selection on house sidings or bathroom tiles, floor tiles are not deviations. We consider them variations. Deviations in our world refer to pre-approved ADU plan design changes that are required, that are generated due to revisions either in the zoning regulation or in the building construction codes. So if the zoning changes or the building codes, construction codes change and they cause a change in the design, that is a deviation. Those pre-approved designs that vary due to required site-specific generated changes will be reviewed for zoning regulation and building construction code compliance during the site-specific application filing process. During the plan examination process, minor variations to the approved elements will be assessed. Note this, will be assessed to determine whether a new filing is necessary. Again, the site-specific filing application review process will generate again a look at the pre-approved set to determine whether or not the variation triggers a new filing. Next slide, please. Will DOB accept HUD-compliant manufactured homes, or do these manufactured homes need to be designed to meet NYC construction codes in addition to HUD codes? Please clarify the NYC construction code requirements for HUD-compliant manufactured homes and how they may be used in the construction of ancillary dwelling units. We submitted a request for clarification on this topic prior to the public hearing for the ADU-related DOB proposed rule. Our response is HUD-compliant manufactured homes used as ADUs under similar criteria established in technical procedures and process note number 6 of 88 for NYS, New York State compliant manufactured homes, will be accepted. The TPPN 6 of 88 establishes New York City compliant criteria and clarifies what elements require compliance with New York City construction codes. And again, the hot link for the TPPN 688 has been provided. And with that, I think this reverts back to Chris Rice.
Great. Thank you, Mercy. Thank you, William. We're going to open it up to Q&A, just a few guidelines and points before we transition to that. So today's Q&A is really largely going to focus on clarifying existing questions in the information presented today. Sort of new topics that need to be covered will require internal coordination. And so responses to those will be addressed in an updated addendum that will be posted on September 19th. So we are taking down questions. We're recording this. We're taking notes from the chat. Michelle, I see the questions that you input, and so those will be addressed in the next addendum. So we're going to ask folks to use the raise your hand feature, and we'll open it up to Q&A. And folks, if you could please introduce yourself as well when you come off of mute. Any questions? I see one in the chat that I can address, which is, will this be shared? Yes, so we're recording this, and the recording will be posted on the ADU for You website. Folks want to raise their hand and come off of mute and ask a question?
Great. My question is regarding prefab units and if there are any rules and regulations around that, since the current units in question have been pre-designed, and since they're prefab, they are intended to be built off-site and delivered on-site. Can you give any insight into that?
Yes, Mercy or William, do you want to speak to that?
Spencer, are these New York State certified, or they're just manufactured offsite?
They're manufactured offsite. I'm not sure if they're certified, to tell you the truth.
I see. So if they are New York State or HUD certified, there's a TPPN, which is the hot link was part of the presentation, and
Right.
I think it's also in the addendum 1. But if they're not state certified, then there is a approved fabricator program, and also a kind of QA/QC process in terms of prefabricated elements that OTCR has a process for. So we'll record your question and answer it more fully in the follow-up.
Excellent. Can I ask if in that follow-up there would be a link to the approved manufacturers?
You meant certified fabricators. Yeah, we'll try to be as thorough as possible, but maybe if you type in your question, then we can have a good record of it and we'll answer it fully.
Okay, great. Yeah, I threw it in the chat, so I look forward to the response. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you. We'll go to Annie next.
Hi, thank you. So I had a question about sprinklers. I just wasn't sure if I was interpreting it correctly, but it seemed to me like all of the ADUs need to be sprinklered, even if you were to build it with fireproof construction. I just wanted to verify that, because sort of with the requirement to submit a full set of drawings, including plumbing drawings, bringing in a sprinkler system would be really site specific in terms of water coming into the site. So I don't know quite how you would file a pre-approved set for that, or maybe that would just be part of the later review.
So Annie, you're correct. ADU for the version we're asking for submissions right now. I mean, as a rule, ADUs are always required to be sprinklered. So I think for the ADU design, I think it will be necessary to show, how many heads, and I think that is a definite amount of water, right? So I think the portion that is more site specific is the kind of water connection that needs to be provided in the future. So yes, the plumbing drawings are required.
So just to add to that, if you were, let's say the building in the front is a pretty old building and doesn't have a backflow preventer, I assume that putting in the ADU would prompt upgrading the plumbing for the new building, or would you be able to be grandfathered in with the existing connection?
So new construction would be required to comply fully with code. But if you're talking about elements from the existing house, William, you were going to jump in.
Yeah, we've got two options. One is to connect to the existing service. if the service capacity allows the additional load, and that will be a DEP site-specific analysis, or you have a separate connection to the main feed in the street. So there'll be two options, obviously, with the ADU, and again, these are going to be site-specific. Regarding the sprinkler, the water flow should be supplied off the domestic supply because the load for the sprinkler will be a low capacity load. Use a generic plumbing design, a domestic plumbing design with the sprinkler system, tapping off the domestic water supply. Does that help?
Thank you. That does help. Thank you, William.
Good. Thank you.
And Mercy.
Thanks. And Annie, again, we'll follow up with a addendum 2 with like a full answer. So that way, you have a record and it can be fully answered with all the details.
Yeah, make sure the question is fully fleshed out in the chat so we can pull it down and use it for the addendum.
Great. Thank you, Annie. We'll go to Christopher Powers next.
Hello. So I just had a quick question. I'm not sure it had been fleshed out yet or not, but regarding the end user and how they interface with the database, do you have any thoughts on terms of, are they going to be able to see and or download a full DOB approved package, or is it going to be a preview sampling, or what's that interface going to look like?
Chris, you want to take this?
Sure, yes. So they won't be able to download the full pre-approved package. So that's why we're asking for the representational materials. That will be sort of the main kind of image or visuals that the homeowner sees. And they wouldn't have access to anything more detailed until they're connected and directly working with the RDP. Does that answer your question, Chris?
He's on mute.
Okay. Other questions?
No, sorry. You I wasn't allowed to unmute. Yeah. So basically, the summation of that is that the representational materials should be thought of as presentation board to owner. It's not just a rendered image, but like an actual comprehensive.
That is right.
Okay.
That is what will be available to folks reviewing the plant library. That's correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'd like to respond to that as well, Chris.
Please.
The images that are posted in the pre-approved plan library should be compelling. So the general public has a very clear idea of what you're presenting. This is a opportunity for you to sell your design, free advertising.
Thanks, William. Other questions folks want to come off of mute and ask? I see there's one in the chat. Mercy or William, you can tell me if we're able to answer this at this time, but from Kina, will there be ADU fee waivers to incentivize homeowners, property owners to build ADUs? I ask this as other jurisdictions in other states have done so to jumpstart construction of these smaller dwellings.
Mercy, you want to take this?
Sure. At this time, we don't have a ADU fee waiver with regard to the site-specific filing. But I can take it back, and run it up the chain. But at this point, there is not a fee waiver for this type of filing, and the filing fees are. And William can correct me, it's based on square footage. And since this is a small footprint filing, we don't anticipate these to be a very large amount, but William can jump in.
That's correct, Mercy. The initial filing fee is the $600 for the pre-approval that the DOB will provide for the initial filing. The site-specific filing will be governed by the fee schedule in the administrative code. And again, These are small buildings, and they will have a small square footage. So the filing fee, I believe the minimum is $130, and then it goes up based on square footage. But check the administrative code for the filing fee.
Next question from Armin. Does DOB offer any pre-approval or plan review services for the ADU designs, and what is the current turnaround time for ADU permit approvals?
Well, I'll take this. We have a pre-approval process for the initial zoning and building construction code, which is based on your design at a generic site. The timeline will be this fall. We will get these pre-approved applications posted, as Mr. Pardella stated at the beginning, for the Apple, the pre-approved plan library. The timeline for a site-specific application approval, again, is a multivariate equation. You've got a site-specific condition, and you've got a generic pre-approved plan, and they have to overlap and meet all the zoning and permitting requirements. And permitting, again, requires other agencies. Specifically, the most important will probably be the DEP connection, which is not only the domestic water use, domestic water in, domestic water out, but also site drainage, whether the site drainage is specific to a dry well or whether it's water that's aggregated and carried into the combined stormwater sewer system in the street. So again, we cannot predict the speed for a site-specific approval for permitting. We can predict a fast and pre-approved ADU generic site approval. Mercy, would you like to add on?
No, that's perfect.
Great.
I see next question from Joseph. Hi, Joseph. It says, if your question is not chosen for a pre-approved design, can you file your own ADU design under full plan exam? So if you submit during this open period till the end of this month, all applications will be reviewed as they are received. So it's not really a design competition where someone would not be chosen. I hope I clarified that okay. But outside of that, you can always file ADU under full plan exam.
Thank you, Mercy. Next question here from Cassandra. Will the ADU filing fee be inclusive for all work types? I'm not sure if we may need Cassandra to clarify that, but maybe she's referring to the various ADU types. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yes. The $600 will cover the initial pre-approved, the DOB pre-approved application. Now, the site-specific, again, will be based on the minimum filing fee requirement for either an alteration CO, which would be an alteration to an existing 1- and 2-family lot, or a new building. And that will be based on the minimum plus whatever size beyond the minimum. Again, check the administrative code.
Great, thanks, William. Next question from Freeman. Question about ADU sewer connection. Do we need to submit new connection applications to DEP, or can we just connect with existing service?
Again, these are site-specific conditions, and you will have to make a determination whether you want to connect to the existing service of the existing house, if there is one, or a direct connection to the city main, both for water supply, the domestic, as well as the sewage, the combined, to make a connection to the combined sewer. So we can't answer the site-specific conditions. What you should do is submit your design using a generic condition as you would would need to be done, whether you want to consider, the cost estimate based on a connection to an existing domestic, or whether you want to make your cost estimate based on a direct connection to the DEP system.
Great. Thanks, William. Next one from Oz here. Does pre-approval, is it only for the planned library? How does this align with an NB permit, or no effect at all? You'd still need to go through plan exam review.
Can you repeat that question, please?
Yes, and Oz, if you're able, maybe it might be helpful for you to come off of mute and clarify. Is pre-approval only for the plan library? How does this align with an NB permit? Does it have an effect at all? Or would you still need, I'm kind of translating a bit, no effect at all, you'd still need to go through plan exam review.
So the pre-approval for the PAPL, the pre-approved plan library, is either a application that will be applied in the future to a site-specific condition. It could either be an alteration CO, which is again a new ADU in a lot with an existing 1 or 2 family dwelling, or it could be a new building as being built simultaneously with a new 1 and 2 family building. So there are 2 possibilities. We can't say at this time which one this pre-approved plan library application will apply to. Does that address the question?
I think Oz is probably alluding to the site-specific filing.
I think we can.
So once you're in the site-specific filing, and you're filing an NB, what is the advantage? So I think the answer to that is when you're doing the site-specific filing, you will be asked to reference a pre-approved design if you choose to use one. And at that point, plan examiners will do a quick check that it looks like what you've shown in your site-specific filing, you're indeed using a pre-approved design, and they will not review that portion, which is already pre-approved. And they will focus on zoning compliance and site connections. So I think that's what you meant. But,
let's unmute Oz, Amanda, and we can ask a clarifying question. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
You hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, what I was trying to ask is, the pre-approval sounds like it's only for the library. How does it affect the remaining permits? If it's NB or alteration, either single family or standalone, does it shorten that time? I understand there's additional permits, but does this pre-approval, is it promised to shorten all that, or just like you're in the library for pre-selection, kind of like as you mentioned, design library?
We're going to under-promise on whether this is faster or not. But the idea is that the plan examiner will do a quick look to see you're using the pre-approved design as referenced, and they will not review that portion that's already pre-approved.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to add on, Mercy, that I think it addresses both questions that our colleague asked. It's for the plan library for the public to use and possibly select, but it'll also be, it will help with the site-specific application process.
Thanks, William.
Thank you.
Great. Next question here from Kina, another one about the building permit review time. What is the average ADU, say 500 square feet detached building permit review time?
Well, the initial ADU pre-approval will be as fast as the ADU for you program moves forward. The site-specific, again, the site-specific approval will be based on the site-specific conditions and the simplicity or complexity of the pre-approved application located in C2. So we, again, because there are other agency approvals required, we cannot guarantee any timeline for the site-specific approved permit application.
Yeah, Kina, outside of approvals that depend on other agencies, I think we do have some service levels numbers. So in our response, we can reference that and just kind of give you a ballpark.
Yeah, our service levels, that's a good point, Mercy. Our service levels are quite fast, and the pre-approved will certainly expedite any DOB approval.
Great, thank you both. So next question here from Mitch. Will the estimated construction cost be displayed with each design in the library? Again, can speak to that, and others feel free to add, but yes, it's our intention to include sort of an estimated cost with each ADU design that is included in the plan library. We understand there's some concerns around accounting for inflation or increase in cost over time, and so we'll be thinking through that with the team internally about ways to account for that. But the goal and the intention is to provide a sort of an estimated cost related to each design.
Specifically to give the general public a more informed body of knowledge about the pre-approved ADU. It's to help them to make an informed decision.
That's right. That's right. All right. Next is Yasmin. Do you have any information regarding the difference in submission process for a submission in this initial RFS period versus when the RFS reopens in 2026 regarding costs, submission inclusions, timeline for DOB review, etc.?
I guess stay tuned. I don't think we have any final word on what this will look like in 2026. I mean, I think certainly we'll take any lessons learned as we go through this first tranche. So.
Thanks, Mercy. The next one here is somewhat technical, so bear with me here. 2 questions for BCU 101.1.1. Where the ADU is located within the same building as the primary dwelling and the total number of dwelling units of such building exceeds 2, the entire building shall be classified as Group R2 occupancy and comply with all applicable requirements of Group R2 occupancy in this code and the New York State multiple dwelling law as applicable, except for basement and cellar units in the program area pursuant to section U202.12. So 1, is a cellar acceptable for ADU? And 2, if the ADU has to comply with MDL, then what is the advantage of filing it as an ADU as compared to a standard DU?
Chris and Mercy, I want to jump in here. We already received this question in print in our current open Q&A phase, which will be addressed in the addendum. It's a complicated question. I'm not sure we should try to address it verbally in this format, in this form.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. And also just to clarify, for the current RFS submission, we're not accepting basement or cellar ADU designs. So that is out of scope, so to speak. But we'll answer that in the addendum to responses.
Thank you, William. Thank you, Mercy. I see Timothy with his hand up, so if we could unmute Timothy and let him ask his question.
Hey, good morning. The Q&A has been really helpful, so thank you for that. I did notice in the presentation that it states that non-RDPs may submit the applications. So just considering protection of consumers, homeowners in particular, will the department be using the licensed RDP as the main contact posted on the website and associated with the plan library rather than someone who is maybe representing or submitting an application on their behalf? I think that's really important to get that clarification. And that contact information would be specific with their state license information. Thank you.
Thanks, Timothy. From the DOB standpoint, we recognize who the RDP is, and the drawings need to be prepared and under the care of that particular RDP. With regard to how this information is displayed, I guess I'll hand it over to Chris.
Yeah, so is the question just about the sort of the display of that information in particular, Mercy?
I think Timothy is concerned about consumer kind of assurance. Like, so if non-RDPs can partner with RDPs, then how is that conveyed, I guess, in the online library?
Got it. No, that's a great question. Timothy, I think that's something we'll want to discuss internally with the team and definitely kind of address an addendum 2 that gets posted on September 19th. I think that will require further discussion. So we'll take note of that.
All right, that's great. I appreciate that. And just keep in mind that the homeowner finding that they're going through the library makes contact with someone for the first time, and that really should be the person who is responsible for the plans and not someone representing multiple RDPs who may or may not be actually engaged in the work. So just consumer protection. Thank you.
Heard on that. Thank you. Just time for just a couple more. So I have Kina, regarding infrastructure connections, in my experience, it is typically most straightforward and most cost-effective to connect to the existing water and sewer and spec an electrical sub-panel in the new ADU building that branches from the main building. So I think that's more just a comment rather than a question.
That's Chris.
Yep.
That's a good comment, and I think we should capture that and post that in the addendum.
Understood.
That's experience talking.
Yes, thank you, Kina. Another one from Kina. I'm going to skip the more lengthy technical one. We can address that in the addendum, but another one from Kina. Are there discussions about expanding the planning and code to allow for 2 ADUs or a duplex in the back of the primary building? In other words, to meet the greater housing crisis challenge. Similar to other more recent middle housing planning and zoning codes in other jurisdictions, for example, to give more flexibility and options due to our current housing affordability challenges.
That will be for DCP and that will require zoning amendments. So Kina, you can appeal to them. But not something we can do or affect over here.
That's a good point. That's a good point. She should take this request to the Department of City Planning and make her voice heard there.
One more from
the mayor's office.
one more from Armin before we close out. So could you share the DOB's projected timeline for finalizing the ADU rules and opening the application process for permits?
Let's see, projected timeline. So it's currently with the law department. We're kind of in the final stretch. Any updates will be announced by press office and all that. So just stay tuned. But it should be very soon for the DOB projected. The rule is 105-1. Yeah.
We also need the DEP's new floodplain maps.
Correct. Yes, but it should be very soon. Or maybe Doug has more insight.
Both are very close. We're very excited about it. Stay tuned.
Great, thank you. All right, I think we're saving the chat. We're recording questions, so anything that wasn't addressed will be addressed in the addendum. So we're gonna pull up the screen share for next steps. So just a few things of note. On September 16th, we're hosting an in-person meet and greet for those who are interested in ADU development in New York City. Today is the last day to register, so please go to the ADU for You website and register as soon as you can if you're interested. As we've noted several times throughout today's session, the questions that we received today will be posted in an addendum on September 19th. The submission period has opened. It'll be open through 5 p.m. on September 26th. If you have additional questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to email us here at the preapproved@buildings.nyc.gov. And then here, lastly, we've just included links for Addendum 1, which is available on the ADU for You page, as well as the RFS itself. So thank you all for joining today, and we look forward to seeing your submissions. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.